Welcome in. I made it home. I was at the Saints bar. You guys know how Thursday nights work. I always go to the team bar here in San Francisco of my choosing. I could have gone to the Jags bar, but the Saints bar is a little bit more fun. It's more established, kind of like the Saints franchise has been around longer than Jacksonville's franchise. And I got to see the comeback there. Then I got to see the fans be really upset that the Saints lost. So, I mean, we can go through everything right now. Why don't we show you the New Orleans Saints bar in San Francisco? It's called Black Magic Voodoo Lounge. You can see here they have Saint Drew Brees. Get it? Saint Drew Brees. And that was tonight. Derek Carr didn't start out very hot. Then it got better. And then it got worse for the Saints because they couldn't play defense. Christian Kirk, remember when he signed that deal worth what, $17, $18 million per year with Jacksonville? Caught that little double move there over the middle against Tyrann Mathieu. First he broke out, then he cut back in, one-on-one coverage. Trevor Lawrence found him. And it was yak all the way to the end zone. 49ers played the Saints last year and they shut them out 13-0. They travel to Jacksonville this season, and the Jaguars are going to be a tough out because they got talent up and down that roster, starting obviously with Trevor Lawrence. But did you see Josh Allen rushing around the edge today? He was giving the Saints all kinds of trouble against left tackle. So that's a game for the 49ers on the road. I believe it's going to be another early body clock start. It's not an easy schedule for San Francisco this year. But first, they need to turn their attention to the Vikings defense. And this is the preview of Brock Purdy's 49ers offense against that Minnesota Vikings defense. The first thing that you need to know is that Minnesota blitzes more than any other team in the NFL, 33.7% of the time. So if you thought that the New York Giants heated up, well, they did. That was an NFL record in that one game against the 49ers. 85% from Wink Martindale. Brian Flores is going to light it up. He's the defensive coordinator for Minnesota. And remember, Brian Flores was the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins in 2020. So I think this is probably bad memories for a lot of you, but do not forget the 2020 Dolphins 49ers game in front of a empty Levi's Stadium. I know Jimmy Garoppolo was coming off of an ankle injury. He was still hurt. They had to yank him at halftime because he really wasn't able to plant his foot and throw. But it was more about the A-gap pressure that Brian Flores was bringing in that game. Play after play, interior blitz after interior blitz. That was the year the 49ers had massive issues at the center position, and they just weren't able to get their protection set against the Miami Dolphins, who didn't have a great statistical defense that year, but they had a great day against the 49ers because they were just flummoxing them up the middle. So Jordan Hicks. I need to add this. I've called Jordan Pace, Jordan Hicks, Jordan Pace because it's Ivan Pace Jr. There we go. Jordan Hicks and Ivan Pace Jr. are going to try to clog that A-gap. Ivan Pace Jr. has blitzed more than almost any other linebacker in the NFL this season. If you want to take a look at the depth chart here for the Minnesota Vikings, I can put it up on the screen. This is who I'm talking about. Jordan Hicks, formerly of Arizona. So the 49ers are familiar with him from inside the division, alongside Ivan Pace Jr., who is that inside linebacker who's going to blitz a heck of a lot. But we do have to say that this defense starts with Danielle Hunter. He leads the NFL with 8 sacks, and I would say that about 70% of the time, maybe a little bit more than that, Danielle Hunter rushes against right tackle, left outside end of that defense. So that means that Colton McKivitz is going to be in for a test for the 49ers. Now, I think both tackles are probably going to face Danielle Hunter, so we can't just say that this is Colton McKivitz. And Trent Williams out of practice today with ankle injury. If he doesn't play, it'll be Jalen Moore at left tackle. So Moore on the left side, McKivitz on the right side, and both of those guys are probably going to see a little bit of Danielle Hunter in this game. The good news for the 49ers is that the rest of this defensive line for the Minnesota Vikings isn't that great. Harrison Phillips, Stanford product, the tackle, he's making his return. High motor player. Jonathan Bullard's at the other defensive end spot. Marcus Davenport, who can rush off the edge, is on IR. That is a break for the 49ers. So you focus on Danielle Hunter. I'm sure he'll get a lot of chip attention. But what I'm really excited about here from the 49ers perspective is you look at Colton McKivitz. He had an awesome, I think, turnaround so far from that TJ Watt disaster in week one. I mean, it was, I call it disaster, and that might be a little unkind to Colton McKivitz. He was facing TJ Watt in his first ever game as a first string right tackle. He had started before, but this was TJ Watt had an entire offseason to prepare to see how he was going to beat Colton McKivitz, and he did. And TJ Watt had 3 sacks, and it was ugly, and people thought that Colton McKivitz wasn't ready for this level at right tackle. Since then, he's been really good, I think, especially in pass protection. I think he's carried that right side. Spencer Burford's really struggled at right guard. McKivitz, he's only given up 2 or 3 pressures over the past 3 weeks total. Last week, it was Trent Williams who was giving up most of the damage to Myles Garrett. Now, Trent was hurt, but Colton is doing his job holding up on the right side. He has better pass protection metrics this year than Mike McGlinchey. So it's been a heck of a turnaround for Colton McKivitz ever since that week 1 trial by fire against TJ Watt. And now Danielle Hunter, who lines up on that right side against right tackle. So such a large portion of the time, he's going to test Colton McKivitz once again. Big question for me here as the 49ers take on the Vikings. Will at least one of Deebo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey play? Because both of them missed practice on Wednesday. Deebo's got what we think might be a stinger coming off that shoulder injury. He was a little unclear on the Kay Adams show about that. First he said stinger, then he said he wasn't sure. Christian McCaffrey dealing with the oblique, not a rib, just an oblique. So that's good news for the 49ers. Both of these guys are technically day-to-day. Both of them missed the end of the 49ers' previous game against the Browns. And I will say that if you have at least one of them, you could still run the whole playbook if you're Kyle Shanahan, because Christian McCaffrey is a running back who can play receiver. Deebo Samuel's a receiver who can play running back. So you still have that adaptability. Now, it's best to have both of these guys because then you're just layering talent. Then you can get really creative. But you can run most of everything if you're the 49ers if you have one or the other. You start running into problems and you have to start shrinking the playbook if neither of these guys is available. So we're going to keep track of this. But Minnesota's defense, I mean, just to give you an idea, they're about number 15, number 16 DVOA, EPA per play. It's a middle-of-the-pack unit. They're extremely aggressive, and we know the way to beat aggressiveness is the quick passing game. Well, Deebo can take the ball. He could run. He could bowl over tacklers. Christian McCaffrey can take the ball. He could run. He could bowl over tacklers. Both of those players would be, I think, really good matchups for the 49ers against the Vikings. Now, if they don't have them, will they have other talent? It'd be Elijah Mitchell's turn to step up. It'd be Jordan Mason's turn to step up. Please, no stupid questions about who's starting, Elijah Mitchell or Jordan Mason. They would both play. And I don't care about your fantasy team, okay? So it's like one of those things. Well, if they're both going to play, I'm going to look at this from a football team standpoint because nobody besides you cares about your fantasy team. Absolutely nobody else in the world. So expect both Mitchell and Mason. It doesn't matter what the order is going to be. One of those guys is more of an outside zone runner, and Elijah Mitchell. One of the other guy, Jordan Mason, is going to be more of a gap scheme runner for the 49ers. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey is going to be out yet. I don't know if the 49ers are sure of that yet. Let's see how practice on Thursday goes. But they have to be ready to beat some of those A-gap blitzes from Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. The A-gap blitzes, by the way, I think primarily are coming from Jordan Hicks and Ivan Pace Jr. right there in the middle. I will say, just kind of as a summary point, Minnesota has been an aggressive but ultimately mediocre defense. They've been right in the middle of those rankings. They create disruption on certain plays, but then it's a boom or bust kind of thing. They'll give up big plays elsewhere. So it's going to be all or nothing, I think, on a lot of these snaps for the 49ers. And it's going to be really important for Brock Purdy to come in with a plan against A-gap pressure, against cover zero blitzes, you need to know where the hot read is. You need to know where that blitz has vacated so you can attack that spot. And often when that blitz hits, because there's too many guys to block, you're not going to have time to react to it and decide where to go. You got to know where to go before the snap. And I thought Brock Purdy did a really good job of that when the 49ers beat the New York Giants back in week 3. It took a couple possessions for the 49ers to really figure things out. Remember the Deebo Samuel screen pass and 30-yard pickup was a big part of that. That's why I think the 49ers really hope that they have one of their star players with the ball in his hands to be able to diffuse some of this Minnesota pressure when they move on the road. But I mean, I would just also, tell you when I say beware of the 2020 Brian Flores 49ers Dolphins game where the Dolphins just lit the 49ers up with that pressure, the most important 49er might be Jake Brendel, the center, because he's the one that's going to be setting the protections, calling everything out at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be really, really on him to make sure that the 49ers have everything lined up front. All right, I was at the New Orleans Saints bar tonight. Those of you who just joined, I can show you what that scene was like at Lombard and Van Ness in San Francisco. This is the Saints tying touchdown, followed by a look at Saint Drew Brees overseeing it. All right, we've moved on to 49ers Q&A. That was your little preview of the 49ers offense against this Minnesota Vikings defense. By the way, a couple of cornerbacks. Caleb Evans, he's missed practice here this week, or at least the start of the practice week. We'll see if he's available. He's the right cornerback. He's 6'2". And then Byron Murphy Jr. is the other corner. We had seen Byron Murphy Jr. previously with Arizona. So we'll see if the 49ers, I don't think the Minnesota corners are all that great. Could be a nice game for Brandon Ayuk. But I mean, the 49ers, the 49ers have enough talent, even with some of these players missing, to where they just need to execute their game plan, right? They need to find open guys in space, and they need to create that space by running the ball well, by diffusing the pass rush, by giving an offensive line that might be missing Trent Williams a leg up. Let them play downhill. They didn't play downhill nearly enough against the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns have historically good defense so far. The Vikings are nowhere near that level. So you got to take that over aggressiveness and use it against the Vikings. The 49ers have beaten some aggressive teams already this season. The Dallas Cowboys played aggressive football. The New York Giants obviously were very aggressive. The least aggressive offense the 49ers have faced this year, the Arizona Cardinals. They blitzed the least out of anybody in football, and that was where Brock Purdy actually played his historically good game as far as completion rate goes. So it does make sense probably to throw some blitzes at Brock Purdy, but he's been efficient against those too. He's been godlike against no blitz, and he's been efficient against blitzes, and you can expect to see a lot of them from Brian Flores and this Minnesota Vikings defense. All right, Q&A time. Popping this open. See what everybody has to say. Vikings cornerback 1, Byron Murphy Jr., Caleb Evans are your 2 top cornerbacks for the Minnesota Vikings. Bradford thinks that Kittle's going to have more than 1 catch for 2 yards. That's what he had last week. Trap game done and over with. I think they were locked in last week. Again, Cleveland, just look at the defensive metrics of what Cleveland is doing. This is a historically good defense. I think people always want to try to explain, why did the 49ers lose this game? Something crazy must have happened. It must have been a trap. Or you could just say their opponent was better than them, and Cleveland's defense was better than the 49ers offense this last week. And I don't think there's all that much shame in that when you see this right here. Hold on. Let's add this to the screen that I share. Look at this. Look where, well, actually, I got a better one. Here, I'll put this up for the time being. That's the Cleveland Browns defense at the top right, but that doesn't illustrate just how damn good that they've been. There's one that does an even better job here. Take a look at this. You see the top right? That's the Cleveland Browns up here. So here you have all the best defenses in the game except for Cleveland. The Ravens, the 49ers, the Saints have a good defense, although today that Saints defense, that was a good performance from Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville. All these guys are clustered over here, and then you have the Cleveland Browns over here. Again, they've given up the third fewest yards since 1970. That's out of like 1,500 defenses. So the Cleveland Browns are just better than the 49ers. Like the defense was better than the 49ers offense, especially without McCaffrey, especially without Deebo Samuel. You could say, oh, what if Ayuk would have caught in that pass? What if Purdy would have hit McCaffrey? Well, he didn't. That's the point. So the Browns have bragging rights right now. They could say that they're a historically good defense through 6 games. On the other side of the ball, the 49ers didn't have a good enough run offense. That's actually run defense. That's exactly what I wrote about. We could pop that open on the screen as well. And because of that, the Browns with their third string quarterback were able to control game flow. Here it is up on The Athletic. You can go ahead and check that out. Maybe I toss it in the description. It's up on my Twitter, though. 49ers must fix a struggling run defense to unlock their pass rush. It's all connected. And even though it's all connected, I'm talking more about the other side of the ball today. We're talking about Brock Purdy and the offense against the Browns defense. So, this is cool. 49ers haven't won a regular season game against Minnesota since 92. I wish I knew that for sure, but thank you. And I'll go and double check into that to see what see if we're dealing with facts here. That would be crazy. That'd be at the old Metrodome back in 1992. Mark thinks it's going to be a big game for Jordan Mason. A lot of that. Mike B says, Myles Garrett would have been the 49ers if it hadn't been for Chip Kelly going for 2 with Kaepernick, right, against the Rams. 2016. 49ers would have been the number 1 pick in 2017. Yeah, they picked Solomon Thomas. Instead of Myles Garrett, they go with Solomon Thomas. And this is the fair take. Even with that Browns defense, Brock Purdy gave the 49ers a chance to win. So they didn't get it done. Jake Moody didn't make the kick. Ayuk didn't make the catch. Purdy didn't make that throw earlier to McCaffrey. He threw an interception, but still, despite all of that, the 49ers had a shot at the end. Despite all of that, all those miscues, the 49ers almost beat this team, this defense up in the upper right. I think that should speak a little bit to how talented and how good this 49ers team could be. So you move on to fight another week. The 49ers can still afford more misses from Moody. The overreactions with Jake Moody are completely stupid. I mean, it's just he's okay. He missed 1 game winner. They knew that he was going to miss. They weren't unrealistic about this, the 49ers, right? They picked Jake Moody. They realize he's a rookie. They realize there'll be some growing pains. It's about how he bounces back from the miss. It's not about the fact that he missed. You move along. You don't move on from a kicker just because he missed 1 game winning kick. You just don't. And the other one was from 54 in wind at Cleveland. So yeah, this is not a thing to have for discussion yet at this point. Shows they can execute a comeback drive in the 4th quarter. The Browns looked like they were devastated sitting on the bench before Moody missed that kick. But the 49ers, it was the difference between 6-0 and 5-1. Not a big one. The 49ers did not win at Minnesota in 2018. This is incorrect. The Vikings beat them. That was week 1 of 2018. So Randy Gregory was good in his first game. And I also thought he had some good run defense in his first game. I don't think that he was the problem with the 49ers failing to set the edge in that run game. And, if Moody keeps on missing, then of course, we're going to have that discussion. It's just too early to have that discussion. We just need to pump the brakes on overreactions on a week to week basis. It really is exhausting. Oh, you deleted the comment? Well, you didn't delete this one, so it's up here. Funny. That 2018 game, that was ugly for the 49ers. The Mike McGlinchey in his first career NFL game had to move to right guard because of injuries. I think Joshua Garnett got hurt, and it was just a bloodbath for the 49ers up front. Kirk Cousins needs a primetime win. Yeah, what is he, 7-11 in primetime? That's not good. I think the 49ers have run more and more man defense over time. They ran a ton of man defense against the Cowboys. I think that Steve Wilkes is playing a long game with some of these complex coverage shifts in the secondary. I think he wants to save the screw it tight man defense for some of the 49ers better opponents later in the season, Philadelphia, and then the playoffs. So I just view what the 49ers are doing defensively as a longer chess match. They want to get some good zone man mixes in there, and you have to work on certain stuff. You have to set certain stuff up for later on, and that's what they're doing. I think overall, the pass defense has not been an issue for the 49ers, right? The pass defense for the 49ers, if you take a look at this, X-axis is pass defense, that's second to only the Cleveland Browns. Y-axis, the run defense, that's where there have been issues. They're under average if you go up and down right here. There's a lot of better run defenses than the 49ers. That's why I wrote this. 49ers must fix a struggling run defense to help unlock their pass rush. Because if you fix the run defense, if you move this right here up this way, then it's naturally also going to move this way toward the Browns, right? Because a better run defense sets the table for a better pass defense because you're in better down and distance and you could pin your ears back and rush the passer. Why aren't they using Kittle as a threat? I mean, he just like 2 games ago, Kittle scored 3 touchdowns. I think they're using Kittle as a threat. Sometimes you just have to give credit to the other team. Again, I don't think that I can put this up here enough. The Cleveland Browns are a historically good defense up here. 49ers had a bad game offensively against them. The game plan was supposed to go through Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. They got hurt. The Browns did a good job covering George Kittle. He was a game removed from scoring 3 touchdowns, not 1, not 2, but 3. So I don't think that you could fairly say that they're not using Kittle as a threat. Stop the run, have some fun. Somebody reads my articles or watches my videos, or both. I guess you definitely do watch my videos if you're commenting on them. Dinner, I had some pizza outside of the Saints bar, the Black Magic Voodoo Lounge over there on Lombard and Van Ness. There was a place called Chico's Pizza where I got a couple slices. If I'm still a little bit hungry after I'm done with this, I may have to go get some tacos. There's a great little just a taco stand that they have out here on Valencia and I think in between 17th and 18th. Oh, it's good. I've put it up here on the show before. I may go there for a taco or 2 if I'm hungry when we're done with this sucker. Why should they move on from Mitchell? I mean, how could we ask this during a week where McCaffrey his status is in question? They need as many running backs as possible. Last time Mitchell played the Minnesota Vikings in 2021, he rushed for over 160 yards. So they need depth at the running back position. It's as simple as that. So no, they shouldn't move on from depth to make their team worse when they're using that depth, right? It's not like Trey Lance, somebody that they wouldn't have used at the quarterback position. Mitchell is somebody that they're going to actively use, especially if Christian McCaffrey is not available. Hey, Danny Gray and Kalia Davis are just buried down the depth chart, although Danny Gray is still on injured reserve. He obviously was hurt during the shoulder injury during the preseason. So Danny Gray unavailable. Kalia Davis buried on the depth chart behind your Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw, those guys still working back. I mean, obviously he's back, but still working back into the mix so that he can be a player that plays regularly for the 49ers. He didn't get to really practice for 95% of last season as a rookie, so still a little bit of a developmental project. That's Kalia Davis. I did say tacos. I'm not the biggest Taqueria La Cumbre fan, although they claim to have invented the mission style burrito. They say that they did it first, and then I know it's Taqueria Alfaro claims to have served San Francisco firefighters first in the 1960s. I'm a Taqueria Cancun guy. La Taqueria is good. I understand that too. There are a few others that I like. I'm not as big into La Cumbre. I'm just being honest. They are close to here, though. Team practices at the same time every day. There's not usually much of a change. Tomorrow, they'll be practicing at 1 o'clock. Tomorrow's like the Thursday practice, but it's Friday since everything is shifted up a day. Robert Beal Jr. remains on IR for the 49ers, but I think that the time to activate him will come when they need some edge rushing depth. I think he should be fully healed or close to it by now. There just haven't been any injuries on that side of the ball, so we haven't seen him activated. We haven't seen Darrell Luter Jr. activated. Those two rookies remain on the shelf for now. Yeah, the La Cornetta near the Glen Park BART station is really, really convenient for people who live in Glen Park. And Glen Park is a cool little enclave of San Francisco. I've done a couple shows from there. Definitely a spot to check out. Really transit accessible, which is nice. Do we have somebody from Woodlake or Visalia? Super Taco? I like that. They are using Kittle. I think that people are mad because Kittle's on their fantasy team. But again, I don't care about anybody's fantasy team. Nobody besides you care about your own fantasy team. Not talking to the person asking the question. So Kittle's doing a lot of work. He hasn't declined at all. He's sitting there springing the 49ers run game free. He's drawing defensive attention to himself. He scored 3 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys. It's just time to tip your cap to the other team. It's time to say, okay, hey, Cleveland's a good defense. The 49ers struggled. They still almost won the game. Pack it up and move on. And don't get mad that Kittle didn't score enough points for your fantasy team. We've got a Modesto taco shop. Cool. Mark is asking another big showing for Randy Gregory. Well, Gregory's a good player, so why not? I don't think that Minnesota's offensive line is bad. I think that might be one of the strengths of their team. I think we're going to talk about that tomorrow too, but more into Randy Gregory on Friday. The comment section has started to talk about tacos. Good stuff. All right, so the quick overview of this Minnesota Vikings defense. Brock Purdy against the Vikings defense. The Vikings blitz 33% of the time, the number 1 rate in the NFL. Brian Flores is their defensive coordinator. He was coaching Miami back in 2020 when they came into Levi's. That was the Brian Allen game, the corner for the 49ers. They got lit up. But the other side of the ball was the Miami Dolphins just lighting the A-gap up with blitzes, and the 49ers lost in ugly fashion. So I think the most important 49er might be Jake Brendel, the center, because he's going to have to be able to, shift the protections, call out all the adjustments for the 49ers. They can take on the linebackers, Jordan Hicks. Keep on making that mistake. Jordan Hicks and Ivan Pace Jr. They're going to try to clog the A-gap for Brian Flores. Expect some double A-gap blitzes. While you're focused on trying to stop that pressure, don't forget about Danielle Hunter and his 8 sacks. Big test for Colton McKivitz. He lines up primarily against right tackle. But the corners are beatable for this team. And if at least one of Samuel or McCaffrey plays, the 49ers screen game will be fine. Their adaptable attack, I think, is going to be able to take on a Minnesota offense that is our defense that's ranked middle of the pack and is missing Marcus Davenport, who's an effective rusher off of the edge. All right, this is it. It's an aggressive but ultimately mediocre defense. Everybody, thank you for joining. I know we're a little later than normal. we'll finish off with the Saints bar in San Francisco because that was fun today. Those of you just joining, Lombard and Van Ness, this was it. Everybody have a good night.